The Brécourt Manor Assault is one of those moments in war that looks small on a map, yet proves decisive in reality. It lasted only a few hours. It involved a handful of men. But it became a textbook example of how disciplined leadership and sound tactics can overcome overwhelming numerical odds. On the morning of June 6, 1944, the Allied invasion of Normandy began. For thousands of soldiers, the day started in the surf, under fire, fighting their way off the beaches. For the American airborne troops, it began hours earlier, in darkness, high above enemy territory, with no guarantee of landing anywhere near their intended drop zones. Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division, was meant to land together and move as a unit. Instead, their transport aircraft was hit. The C-47 carrying the company command element went down. Captain Thomas Meehan III, the company commander, was killed before reaching the ground. By dawn, Easy Company no longer existed as an organized formation. Its men were scattered across the Norman countryside, isolated, disoriented, and unsure who was still alive. Command fell to First Lieutenant Richard Winters. Winters gathered what survivors he could at a small farmstead known as Grand Chemin. There, amid hedgerows and flooded fields, he began rebuilding control from almost nothing. He established contact with division headquarters and asked for instructions. What he received was minimal. There was artillery firing along a hedgerow. It was hitting the exits from Utah Beach. And it needed to be taken care of. That was it. No detailed briefing. No intelligence packet. No reinforcements promised. Those guns were firing directly into the paths used by the 4th Infantry Division as it moved inland from the beach. Several American units had already tried to silence the battery earlier that morning, and had been driven back. Around 8:30 a.m. Winters conducted a reconnaissance. He did not know how many enemy soldiers he would face. He did not know the exact layout of the position. He only knew the direction of the fire and the urgency of the mission. He assembled a small assault force, 12 men, drawn from his own company and others he encountered along the way. They were not a platoon. They were not even a full squad. They were simply the men available. Together, they moved toward Brécourt Manor, located roughly 3 miles southwest of Utah Beach and just north of the village of Sainte-Marie-du-Mont. What Winters found there was a well-positioned German artillery battery. For 105 mm light field howitzers, manned by the 6th Battery of the 90th Artillery Regiment, protected by infantry. At least 60 German soldiers occupied the area, 5 times the size of Winters' force. Unbeknownst to him, these troops were part of the 6th German Parachute Regiment. Its 1st Battalion had arrived from Corentin only the night before and had been assigned responsibility for defending Sainte-Marie-du-Mont and the surrounding sector. The situation was further complicated by confusion on the German side. The original artillery crews had apparently abandoned the guns earlier in the night. German officer Friedrich von der Heydt, discovering the battery unmanned, ordered his battalion to secure the area and improvise new crews to keep the guns in action. That improvised defense now stood between Winters and the beach. Rather than rush the position, Winters stopped and observed. He studied the placement of the guns, the interconnecting trenches, and the machine gun positions guarding the approaches. Then he formed a plan. 2 M1919 machine guns were emplaced to provide suppressive fire. Their purpose was not to advance, but to pin the defenders in place. At the same time, a small maneuver element, led by Lieutenant Lynn Buck Compton, with Private Donald Malarkey and Sergeant William Garnera, was sent forward to eliminate a key German machine gun position. The trenches that linked the gun pits were meant to allow the Germans to move quickly between positions. Instead, they became the battery's greatest weakness. Once the first gun crew was neutralized, Winters and his men entered the trenches and began moving along them, attacking each gun in sequence. Each howitzer was destroyed the same way, a block of explosive placed into the barrel, detonated using captured German stick grenades. It was systematic, controlled, relentless. As the fight continued, reinforcements arrived from Dog Company, led by Lieutenant Ronald Spears. Spears was known for his aggressive combat style, and he immediately led the attack on the fourth and final gun, advancing over open ground and drawing enemy fire. With all 4 howitzers destroyed, the battery finally fell silent. But the battle was not over. Heavy machine gun fire erupted from the manor itself, forcing the American paratroopers to withdraw. As they pulled back through the trenches, Winters made a critical discovery, a German map showing artillery and machine gun positions across the Cotentin Peninsula. Recognizing its importance, Winters returned to Grand Chemin and handed the map to Lieutenant Lewis Nixon, the battalion intelligence officer. Nixon immediately took the information to Utah Beach and delivered it to Allied command. The value of the intelligence was immediately recognized. 2 tanks were sent forward to support the paratroopers, and under Winters' direction, their fire was used to eliminate remaining German strongpoints around Brécourt Manor. American losses in the assault were light, but significant. Private John D. Halls of Able Company was killed by mortar fire. Private Robert Popeye Wynne was wounded, evacuated to England, later recovered, and returned to duty. 3 additional casualties were suffered by supporting units: Warrant Officer Andrew Hill, Sergeant Julius Rusty Hawk of Fox Company, and 1 unidentified soldier from Dog Company. The landing at Utah Beach proved to be the least costly of the Allied assault beaches, due in no small part to the destruction of the Brécourt battery. Colonel Robert Sink, commander of the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment, recommended Richard Winters for the Medal of Honor. The recommendation was later downgraded, and Winters received the Distinguished Service Cross instead. After the war, efforts were made to revisit that decision. A campaign reached the United States Congress, but no change was approved. What remained was the example. The Brécourt Manor Assault endures not because of legend, but because it demonstrates how initiative, discipline, and tactical clarity can shape events, even when a battle begins in chaos, with too few men and no margin for error.